start asking questions about it. You have to rebuild your ability to ask questions and then ask a follow-up question, because I want you to go back to being a child. Because I think that's the opportunity you have today. You have this oracle called ChatGPT. It's sitting there and it's available to you 24 hours a day, answers every question without ever being pissed off at you, and you're not using it.
Welcome to the Path to Passive podcast, where we talk about building wealth and empowering lifestyle through commercial real estate investing for tech professionals. I always wish that other tech professionals reaching financial freedom had documented their journey along the way, so I'm doing it for the rest of us. Join us as we explore stories, many failures, and lessons learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Path to Passive, real estate investing for tech professionals. I'm Steven Arita, and today's episode is an absolute masterclass for every tech professional out there who's interested and thinking about building freedom through real estate. You're going to meet the mad scientist of multifamily himself, Mr. Neal Bawa. I've wanted to have Neal on for as long as I've heard him speak, pretty much the entire time I've been doing this podcast so far. I've seen him on different stages and the masterminds I'm in, and I really wanted to have him on. He's built a $660 million portfolio with over 4,400 units, and he's done it by hacking the system with technology, automation, and relentless data obsession. But this isn't just like any interview. I get to interview him as a tech professional, thinking about what questions would my tech professionals want to hear as well, and not just about what do people who want to invest in real estate want to know. So we're going to be talking about a roadmap for you, the high income tech professional who's making somewhere around 200 to 500K a year, wondering, what does day zero look like if I want to start investing? How do I build real estate momentum without quitting the job? And how can I buy back time with automation and virtual assistants to accelerate everything? So Neal is going to say a lot. He breaks down why waiting for perfect timing is a myth, it's holding you back, and how you can start making smart moves today in any markets. We'll get tactical on how to leverage your W-2 salary, your day job, and how to learn fast as a limited partner before becoming an operator, and how to build credibility, deal flow, even before you own a single property. We also get Neal's obsession with AI, ChatGPT, and building what he calls an army of virtual assistants. You're going to hear exactly how he uses his tech background to systematize every part of his investing journey and how you can do that too. If you've been stuck in research mode or waiting for the right moment, in this episode, we'll shatter those limiting beliefs and give you a clear, actionable playbook to start your real estate investing journey today. So lean in, grab your notebook, because you do not want to miss this one. Hope you enjoy, subscribe, and share. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one. Neal, man. Yeah, I've been following her for it for a while. I love listening to the way that you articulate things and the different ways that you think about systematizing things, explaining the way that you have structured your life, and you jokingly, talking about how it's, not the meek that shall inherit the earth, but the geek. But the way that you have structured your life in such a way, so it's how can you hack real estate with technology, not simply just about falling in love and being addicted to real estate itself. And I think, you're the perfect person to be talking on this podcast, your real estate for tech professionals, and those definitely keen in the areas of Amazon, Netflix, Google, et cetera, in your backyard in Taxifornia. And so, this is it's an honor to have you here. I'm super excited. And, I want to frame today's episode around how if this is day zero for the tech professional, that it is good what they've been doing. They're in mid-career and they're looking at how can they diversify or just, lean into real estate. How would they go about doing that? We'll talk a little about things that are interesting to you, AI. We'll talk about some things like where things are going next 5 to 7 years as well. So I'm super excited to have you here. So let's kick this off. Day zero, tech professional, accredited investor, making $250 to $500 a year. How should they start getting into real estate? If they're saying, Neal, you've crushed it in tech, you're obviously crushing it, data science, computer science, all the things in real estate, where do I go from here?
Sounds good. Well, firstly, thanks for having me on the podcast. This is actually fun for me because I feel like when I'm talking to real estate folks, I'm talking to an audience that's alien to my own mindset, right? So I'm a technologist, computer science graduate. I've run a tech company. I've sold a tech company. And so I don't think I can ever be anything other than a technologist, right? So All I am is a tech guy that's saying, how can I take my skill set, which is systems, processes, streamlining, creating accountability, and apply that to real estate, right? How can I take my data science skills and basically figure out where to buy real estate, when to buy real estate, when to sell real estate? Those are really the things that I've done. There's a bunch of other things that real estate people do that I've never been good at, and I don't think I'm ever going to be good at because that's not my mindset, right? So the people that I'm talking to, if they're, especially if they're tech guys making 250 to 500, which is really perfectly where I fit as a technologist before I got into real estate, that's my brethren, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, these are people that actually are in the same place as me, and maybe they're early in that process. So what I would say to all of you guys is, the first thing I like to say is it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? So I live in California until 2014 or 2015, had the big fat tech job, 350,000 a year on average, but there's years where you get bonuses and stock options, so that number goes up from there, but you're always making 350K. But if you look at, what the tax structure is like, plus California, what California is like, you're paying 9.3% on the California side, and you're paying about 32% on the federal side.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically 39% of your income is gone, right? And that's shocking, right? I mean, that 350 basically goes down dramatically, right? You're just a little bit over 200K, which in California is middle class, right? And that's the problem. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? And so my story started with the obsession that I wanted to keep more of what I had. In 2003, my tech company decided to build a campus instead of renting it. I'm glad for that decision. No investors involved, just our cash, no bank, nothing like that. We went out, built a campus. I mean, I noticed each year after that, my salary would keep going up because that campus really helped us grow our business. But my take-home salary also grew at the same time because the campus was giving me depreciation. I was a partner. And so we ended up building a bunch of campuses, which meant that I was collecting more and more money. So by 2008, 2009, I had a bunch of money ready just at the right time. So what you have to understand as a technologist is it's unlikely that you will ever see a time like 2009, at least in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years in real estate. Maybe you will, but that's not what you should be waiting for. Here's the other thing. There's no need to wait for that, right? Real estate makes money in any environment, right? When the stock market is high, it makes money. When the stock market's low, it makes money. When interest rates are high, it makes money. When interest rates are low, it makes money. Sometimes it actually makes more money when interest rates are high, and I'll explain why. So the first thing you have to do is to understand that this obsession that a lot of you technologists have of waiting until the market is right, whether it's the stock market or the real estate, is a self-defeating thing. It really doesn't mean anything. You should enter a market at any given point in time. Apple and Microsoft were both formed during severe recessions in the 1970s. So were a bunch of other famous companies. So timing is highly, highly overrated. And all it serves is basically a way to stop you from doing something useful, whether it's investing in stocks or Bitcoin or real estate. So get that out of your head first. That's your starting point, because this issue around timing, not only will it stop you, when you start, but even once you start and you're putting in effort, you'll be like, yeah, the timing's not good. I should stop all this effort I'm making, right? Get that out of your head first. It doesn't mean anything. And the people that are successful in this world, they don't look at timing. They never do. It doesn't matter. And they never wouldn't care one, bit about timing itself. It's your contribution that matters. That's what's key to the success. So let's talk about where do you start, right? So let's maybe put that in buckets, right? So as a technologist, time is an issue. But I argue that there's always an hour available. I tell people who are non-technologists or non-lawyers, you got to put in 2 hours a day. I think for technologists, because you are in some ways more efficient than other people, right? Because you can leverage technology, you can leverage ChatGPT, you can leverage a lot of things to save time. You can write Excel formulas. I think an hour works, and an hour is actually not a very large amount of time to change your life, because maybe you get tired in the evening. Well, in that case, let's put in 2 hours or 3 hours on the weekend and catch up. An hour a day is actually a pretty awesome amount of time. What I find is that when I talk to technologists, especially people in my family, I have tech geeks in my family, Their definition of an hour is just bullshit. Their definition of an hour is, well, I'll spend 30 or 40 minutes simply reading stuff on the web, and then I might spend 10 or 15 minutes doing more research, and then I'll spend 5 minutes working on an Excel spreadsheet. No, I mean focused 60 minutes of time, right? And maybe 15 minutes of that is research. So the problem with research is it prevents you from getting started. You just keep researching and researching, and I need more research. I need more research. Oh, I learned something new here, and I learned something new there. That's useful, right? But when you start, give yourself the first 30 days for research. Get this research bug that you have in your head out. Fine? An hour a day, go research whatever you want, YouTube, ChatGPT, whatever the heck you want. Maybe it's single family real estate, maybe it's commercial real estate. Get the damn bug out. But when you hit that 30-day mark, you cannot spend more than 15 minutes of your hour doing research, because research prevents progress. So maybe you do your research at the end of the hour, not the beginning of the hour. I'd strongly suggest that. So your first 45 minutes are spent doing things. Now, what are the things that you're going to do? Let's talk about that. The first thing is to decide which way do I want to go. And generally, it's not one or the other. It's not going to be like I do X or I do Y. You probably will do X and Y. So one of the first things that I did is I was like, I need to learn from people that are smarter than me. Then how do I learn from those people, right? So of course I reached out to people. I gave them, examples of my skills and my capabilities, and I said, hey, I'd like to work with you for free. It's shocking. Almost everybody in the real estate industry that I found that I really thought was great either refused to answer my emails and text messages and LinkedIn connections, or when they did, they simply said, I'm sorry, I don't have the time. And that puzzled me, because I'm like, I think I'm a bright guy, and I'm positioning this well, and I'm saying to them that I have skills. The honest answer is people who are really good in real estate, they already have full-time professionals who may be IT people or maybe from the real estate world that actually are experienced, and they don't want to spend any of their time with you trying to mentor you, unless they're very late in their career and mentorship is important for them. Mm-hmm. So it's actually very difficult to go the route of I will find somebody that will mentor me. That I was disappointed by, because I felt like I could get somewhere. But I can also tell you that this is also a consistent experience of other people that have tried this, that trying to offer your work for free with somebody that is high quality is rare. Now, if people are starting in real estate and they've started the last couple of years, they'll happily accept your help. But I can tell you the quality is not very high, and actually they tend to lead you in the wrong direction. If somebody's 10, 15, 20 years of experience, one of the very best ways, one of the phenomenally best ways of really learning from these people is to invest with them. And I'm not saying you invest with me. This is just a general comment, is to basically do your research first as a limited partner. And I know that you want to do things yourself, and we're going to go there. But bottom line is, one of your tracks for learning real things, important things, useful things, is to figure out what do I want to do in real estate. Maybe you want to do Airbnb, maybe it's single family real estate, maybe it's lending, fix and flip, or maybe it's multifamily. These are sort of the 5 biggest buckets. Figure it out, then find people that are really good at it, and then give them some of your money, whatever is the limited amount, minimum amount you can put into their projects, as a limited partner investor. So I did that for a number of years. In fact, some of those people became my friends. One of them, Michael Anderson, I gave him money 3 times. He ran a company called Real Source, very powerful company, syndication company. They did multi-billion dollars of revenue. And through this process, which I'm about to describe, I became friends with him. And one day, as a real estate professional, I got a chance to work with him. We did a very successful project that made 40% annualized for our investors. And then he now sits on my board of my company, and I sit on his board. Right? And this process started with me just being a regular limited partner investor amongst his hundreds of limited partner investors. But what I like to do is when I find maybe 4 or 5 really good groups and I want to invest with them as a technologist, you can invest as little as $25K. You're making, let's call it $200,000, $250,000. You can invest $25K. You can find that money from somewhere. So beg, borrow, steal, invest that money. So $25K, $50K, whatever it might be. But before you make an investment, make sure you're only investing with people that write very often and very detailed limited partner updates on whatever it is that you're investing in. Maybe it's Airbnb, maybe it's fix and flip, but they're basically updating their investors on an ongoing basis. I like I write entire stories. I write entire Bibles, right, in my investor updates, and people love that, right? But not everybody does that. So you might find some people that are highly competent, but they basically send a one paragraph update every quarter. I'm not talking about those people, right? So how do you know? Well, it's really easy. Anytime you reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in investing with you, the first thing you should ask them is, what are your investor updates, right? Could you send me on any like last two properties that you bought, could you send me your investor updates, right, that you're sending to investors? And sometimes they'll say, well, it's confidential. If they say it's confidential, say, okay, fine, go ahead and send it on any property that you sold. Now that you've sold it, right, the property's already sold it, there shouldn't be an issue. If they're like, no, we can't do that either, maybe there's something shady there, right? Because if they've sold the property, they don't have an issue with sending you their investor updates. Then read the updates, make sure that these are the people that write very detailed updates. Why? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to learn from them so that you can do this later. You're trying to basically learn by seeing it from them and asking questions of them. So let's assume you found one and you're like, yeah, these guys write great updates. So you spent $25,000. You've invested that. Now, on a monthly or quarterly basis, in my case, I do 6 investor updates. I have about 1,200 investors. So we do 6 updates a year. There's 2 webinars, 2 Q&As, and 2 written updates. So now you've got 6 chances in a year, hopefully, or maybe at least 4, to review everything that's coming from them. I can tell you, because you are personally invested, $25,000 of your money or your family's money is invested in it, the way you're going to treat these updates that are coming in is very different from any standard research that you do, because your money's at stake. You're going to be paying way more attention, which means you're going to be learning way more, right? And what I want you to do is this, and this, you're a technologist, so you'll get this. Every time the update comes in, it's usually a PDF or an email, right? Copy it and throw it into ChatGPT, and then say the following things. I'm a limited partner investor in this project that is interested in learning a lot more and eventually becoming a general partner and doing the same thing that these people do, right? I want you to give me 10 really tough questions based on this update that I can ask these people so that I can learn more, and they can also know that I'm not a bullshitter, right? I know quite a bit. And it'll ask you, it'll give you 10 questions. You probably pick 5 or 6 of them, and then you send it off to this syndicator. You learn from them, right? So now you have basically 25, 30 questions that you've picked out of ChatGPT's lists that you're learning from. I assure you that learning will be much greater, and you remember it a lot more than something that you just read in some article, because it's tied to your property, especially tied to things that are going wrong, because you obviously wouldn't ask questions about things that are going great. If their rent growth is awesome, you're not going to ask questions. But if their occupancy is low, you're going to ask questions about that. So now, with a single investment of maybe as little as 25 grand, maybe even less than that, there's people that do even less than that, you're learning, and you're learning at an accelerated rate. You're also not just absorbing all of the answers to the questions, but you're absorbing all of these updates. And these updates are from a professional in the industry, whatever you're doing, fix and flip, single family, multifamily. Hopefully it's multifamily. I like scale. This is why I moved away from single family as quickly as I could, and I'll never go back, because I hate the lack of scale in single family. I hate the fact that I feel like I'm a landlord. I'm not a landlord. I'm an investor, right? I want to have other people working for me. And so when I buy a 200 unit property, it already has 6 full-time employees, and all of them work at the property and half of them live at the property. That feels to me like a business. It feels like there's a whole bunch of people and they're full-time, they're employed by this property, they work there, and I can fire them if they're not any good. Whereas with single family, most of the time you end up being the landlord. And even if you have a property manager, most of the time you have to supervise a really crappy property manager. Just so you know, in the property management world, as soon as you get any good, you move up from single family to multifamily. You don't want to be a single family property manager for more than a few years. You want to get to multifamily as quickly as possible, because every project you're managing now has 200 units, whereas every project you manage on the single family side has 1 unit, right? So customer acquisition costs are much higher on the single family side than they are on the multifamily side. So everybody moves up. So there's really not a lot of good property managers on the single family side. Pretty deadbeat, actually. So now you're learning from these people. They're giving you ideas, they're giving you comments. That's a great place to start, and that might in fact be the description of your whole first year, right? You've got the 30 days to get that research bug out of your head, and then you're basically making limited partner investors. But here's my feeling. My feeling is that you're actually going to end up starting to take action much sooner than a year, because you did something, you took action, and now you're noticing all the things that they're doing, and you're beginning to get this feeling of, okay, I understand what he's doing. He explained what he does. I can do it now that he's explained it to me. How is he leasing up this property? I can understand that. How is he doing, rent bump? So he explained to me that it costs him $9,000 to improve a unit, and he's explaining to me that he puts, these countertops, and then he, resurfaces the cabinetry, and he rips out the carpet, and he puts this in. So at least I'm learning what the job is. What's he getting paid to do? Why am I paying him and giving him 30% of my profit? These are all the things that he's doing, right? And these are all the challenges that he's coming up with. So you're learning all of these things, and it's making it easier for you to believe that you could do it, that one day you can start to do this, right? Now, the next step is this. So this is very fun and interesting, because you can make millions of dollars here doing very little work. Let's say you work for Apple. I have a lot of friends that, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so obviously Apple's here, HP's here, Google, LinkedIn, all of the big players are here, right? So a lot of us as technologists either work in big companies, or we've gone out and built networked on LinkedIn. So we've built out interesting LinkedIn networks where we've linked to a whole bunch of people in our company and other companies, right? So I had like 5,000 LinkedIn contacts even before I got into real estate. Now I have 50,000, but back then I had about 5,000. Right? Because I like connecting with people just for tech reasons. I'm not connecting with them for real estate. I'm just, these are just other tech people that I like and I follow. So now what I want you to do is I want you to start posting data that you're getting from these updates, right? Interesting pieces from these updates into your LinkedIn channel. Now, when I started doing this a very long time ago, it was just text updates, and I was shameless in copy pasting stuff. I know it's confidential. I know I'm not supposed to post it, but I'm not hurting anybody, right? So I'm just taking content from there and I'm posting it. As I posted, right, I started noticing that other people were very interested. Oh, you're in this project. How did you get into a project? I mean, this is a $40 million building. Did you buy the $40 million building? No, I bought a $25,000 share. Oh, really? So how do you do that? Oh, there's this thing called syndication. Now what's happening is people are asking me questions, and they realize I'm a limited partner. They don't know I'm not a GP, so they know I'm not trying to sell anything to them, right? I don't have anything to sell. I'm just sharing stuff. So now they're asking me questions, and now the best way to learn is to teach, right? So now I'm basically telling them, oh yeah, that's what he means by this and that. So by simply, remember, you have this hour every day. That's a lot, right? You can take little snippets, and this is only 5 minutes of work. Take little snippets, post on LinkedIn, and whoever responds to you, connect with them. And you're connecting with a bunch of tech people. You're not connecting with real estate folks. Don't do that. Real estate folks often don't have money. Tech people have money, right? We're technologists. We're rich. We have lots and lots of disposable income. Connect with more like yourself. So now what's happening is a community is building, right? You're basically answering people's questions. And that's your first step, because you're building some credibility amongst people like you, right? As you can imagine, 100% of my first 100 investors were technologists. Today, I have doctors and lawyers and all kinds of people, nurses, right? I have 1,200 investors at this point in time. But I think the first 100 were all Silicon Valley people that I knew. It's going to be the same for you. So now what you're doing is you're building this ecosystem, and you're telling people for a number of months that you have this project and this big building, and every time something interesting happens, maybe they repaint the front of the building, so they're sending you a picture and saying, hey, the front of the building is repainted. Well, take that picture, you stick it in LinkedIn and other channels. You might like Instagram, you might like TikTok, whatever it is. Plug that in there and start talking about it, right? And people will be like, is this your building? No, this is not my building. I'm invested in this, but it's cool. I'm learning lots about multifamily real estate, or whatever, Airbnb, whatever it is. And now, as people are learning, now you're actually, oddly enough, building a real estate credibility without owning any real estate or doing anything in real estate or managing properties and things like that. And that credibility is getting built. So now you have to move on to the second phase. And at an hour a day, your second phase could come in a month, might come in 3 months, might come in 6 months. Totally up to you. In that second phase, what you're doing is you've now learned enough to understand how these properties work, and you're going to go take a course, and you're going to take that course on udemy.com. Basically it's called multifamily underwriting, or Airbnb underwriting, or how to buy Airbnb properties, or maybe you're doing a single family fix and flip, so you're basically going out and taking those courses. So that's the step. You're now ready to take a course, because your purpose after taking the course, let's say it's multifamily. Let's say you've learned, you take a 4-hour course and you're like, okay, I think I can do some basic multifamily underwriting. And some of these courses, they come with templates, or on the web these days, everything's easy. Ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you 10 different vendors selling templates, underwriting templates for single family, multifamily, Airbnb. There's templates all over the place. You just go pay $100 and you're done. Now you've got this template, and right? And now you're ready to start underwriting properties. Underwriting means analysis, right? You're trying to figure out if this property makes money. And so what you're doing is you're going to whatever is the source for these properties. Airbnb properties are really single family properties, so they sell on all of the usual engines like Zillow and Trulia. Multifamily properties sell on LoopNet, and LoopNet's not very expensive. You can go get a subscription, you can share a subscription with other people. There's also a bunch of free places on the web that you can see properties like 10x. So TENX. So now you're basically grabbing those properties, and make sure they're not like super big 200 unit properties like the ones that you've invested in as a limited partner, but they're smaller properties. Maybe it's a 15 unit, 20 unit, 30 unit property. So grab the property and take its information, what you learned from the course, plug it into the underwriting template. And once you plug it into the template, start publishing those templates to all of your channels. Maybe by now you've started a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel could be a technologist's journey to real estate or something equivalent of that. A lot of people have YouTube channels like that, and other people follow them. Or you could just stick with, LinkedIn and a whole bunch of, the usual stuff, Instagram, things like that. Start to post it. When you post it, you may ask for help. You might say, hey, I have this 30 unit property that it's on sale. It's in El Paso, Texas, and I'm interested in buying these for about $2 or $3 million. I'm interested in getting comments for those of you that know this area and can really, look at this underwriting and see if I've made a mistake or if you agree with me. Now, because you've spent a lot of time engaging people for months, they're like, oh, he's asking for my help, right? And they go in, they open your Excel spreadsheet and they look at it and then they offer feedback. Maybe they know more about it and correct you. Maybe they don't. And they're still like, what's this, right? If they don't know, they're going to actually ask you questions about acronyms and other things that are in these spreadsheets. And they're going to be like, what is this? What is that? What is this? And before you know it, your community is getting built further. You're finding both people that are smarter and further ahead than you, so you can align with them. They're still technologists. They just have been doing this longer. Or you're finding people that don't know enough and all of a sudden are like, ooh, this guy knows like 50 acronyms that I don't. He must be really smart. And now you're building a database. You're building people that may invest with you in the future, and you're creating those kinds of audiences. You'll notice that over time, your interaction levels are going up and more people are watching this. LinkedIn sends you an email every week that says, your posts receive this many views, right? So you obviously want to track that. And LinkedIn also lets you do that with a graph. So you want to track that and make sure it's going up. And the further up it goes, the further towards success you're going. And that's the power, right? I'll stop here at this point in time, but that's really a terrific way to get started.
I had wanted to ask follow-up questions in that too. So, you're talking about this from a perspective on someone that's in tech and actually wants to do this in a more full-time perspective, like moving from limited partnership to full-time and posting data to, engage with other tech professionals to work on deals together on their tech professional network. Do you, who would you say, if there's people that enjoy their tech career, they're liking it and they want to invest as well, because like you're talking about, it's that they're doing real estate to invest, right? But they don't want to be a full-time, analyze properties to the same extent to have the intent to become a GP as well. Mm-hmm. But they might also be thinking of, they want to look at opportunities to leverage their time more and free their time. And you're an expert with working with virtual assistants, and you've talked about, using assistants, and then later on, solving for building a management layer of, project managers and others too. could you comment on the opportunity of using virtual assistants when someone has a full-time W-2 job, and like leveraging and investing in a couple of deals using $25,000 here and there, but also leveraging starting to build that skill of virtual assistants to offload things off of their plate too?
Yeah, this is an area I'm very passionate about, and I actually, present a lot of courses. One of my most popular courses on multifamily universities, it's a free course that talks about 10xing your business using virtual assistants. My beliefs in this are slightly disruptive in that I believe that if you have a $200,000 salary, let's just use that as a number. You have $200,000 salary, or even 200,000 with your spouse, you should have a virtual assistant even if you are not investing in real estate. And this is not a full-time assistant at that point in time, but having a virtual assistant, and 5 years from now, it'll be a ChatGPT agent, but we're not there yet and we're not close. Having a virtual assistant, in my opinion, is so incredible for quality of life reasons. And a lot of people are like, yeah, why should I pay, let's say you're paying $7 an hour and you're paying, maybe 5 hours a week, right, for a virtual assistant. Well, that's $35 an hour. Multiply that by 50 weeks. I'm paying about $3,000. The answer is this. Obviously, you want to improve yourself. Obviously, you want to become an investor. You want to become richer. You want to grow both your boundaries and your horizons when it comes to your life and also your investing life. And the way to do that is to actually learn something of great value, and that is to learn how to manage other people. And it's much more expensive to manage people in the United States. It's cheaper to manage people in the Philippines, and believe it or not, it's easier to manage people in the Philippines. So when I mention the Philippines, I use virtual assistants from India, the Ukraine, Pakistan, and the Philippines, but I've always found, because the Philippines has the largest pool of virtual staff in the world, that is on engines like Upwork.com, it's much easier to just start with the Filipinos. So I have about 25 of these people, and they work for me on a full-time basis, but I started, with somebody 5 hours a week at $7. Back then it was about $3 an hour, but today it's about $7 an hour. A lot of people don't understand that technologists like us, we often go to a bachelor's degree school that's costing us $150,000 for 4 years of education, right? And people are okay with paying that and even paying the interest on it to the government, because it's formal, structured education.
Yep.
I have a belief that that's actually something that's necessary. It's a good foundation for your career. But what you really need to do is take the next step of real life education. And real life education is not in books. Real life education comes from doing things, learning things, making mistakes. To me, I think a virtual assistant, a good virtual assistant, a decent one that you've interviewed and trained, you can just start with having them help with various things. Go pay this bill, go do this, build this Excel spreadsheet, try these various activities, post on my LinkedIn channels, to help me create 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 different social channels, because I want to grow as a person, right? Again, You're not necessarily looking to become a general partner, but you're looking to grow your network. Because remember, even if you only want to invest as a limited partner, you have to grow your network. Because the worst thing that you can possibly do, Stephen, is to find two guys that you've seen on the web or your friends have met, and you're like, these are the two people I know, and I'm going to invest with these two people. There is no benefit to do that. There's no comparison, right? So even as a limited partner, here's some of the things that you can ask your virtual assistant to do. Apart from all the basic stuff, helping with your life, with your travel. My virtual assistants plan out my travel. Everything is planned out 18 months in advance. I only travel 18 months in advance unless there's an issue. And I travel business class, Asia in the winter, Europe in the summer, and cruises in the summer, early summer. So, Alaska cruise, or in the summertime, or in November for Thanksgiving, I'll go to the Caribbean. All of this stuff is planned out for me by virtual assistants. And I can tell you, they do a better job than me because they have more time. I have less time. If I had the same amount of time as them, I think I could do a better job than them, but they can do a better job because they have time. So start with that, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to train yourself on how to train other people, which itself is something that requires a significant amount of thinking and effort, and it takes a while for you to improve at it, right? You'll suck at it, to be honest, when you start. So then you're basically saying, okay, I've given them some work. I'm starting to kind of learn how to interact with them. Maybe I'm interacting with them via Slack or FaceTime or whatever, technology, Zoom. Um, and now you're saying, okay, what's the next step? Okay, well, I want to learn how to be an investor. I'm not looking to be a general partner. I just want to be an investor, right? So the next thing that you would want to do is figure out, what you want to invest in. What are the different buckets? Who's going to do the research for that? Your virtual assistant. They're going to write specs. They're going to do the research. So let them present that research to you. You ask the question, let them go back and do more research. They come back. And now you have all these buckets that are nicely researched. And maybe you pick a bucket. Maybe you pick multifamily. I'll just say that because I'm a multifamily guy, but who knows, right? Yep. So you pick that bucket, and now you're back to your virtual assistant, and you're saying, okay, I want to know at least 100 people that are in this space as a general partner, people who are in this space as a professional that are buying 200, 300 unit properties all the time. And you're saying to your virtual assistant, first you've got to do the research. Then you've got to get me 100 LinkedIn connections with these people. Then you've got to get me 100 YouTube channels, which are probably the same channels, but might be different ones. And then you're also going to get me on, Instagrams and things like that. So I'm set up so that in front of me, whether I go on my, YouTube on my iPad or on my email, you're getting me on newsletters with all these people. Now that there's information from these people that's coming to me, right? And I'm able to look at information from various sources. And then I want over time, so normally not everyone has offers in these kinds of things every day. Sometimes, like I haven't bought a new value add property for 9 months. So it's, if you were in my database, you wouldn't have seen an offer for the last 9 months. So whenever offers come in, it becomes your virtual assistant's job to categorize them because you want it in Excel with links, all of the, there's going to be these portals. You have to go into these portals. You have to grab the information, offering memorandums, Excel spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And your virtual assistants are organizing these because at any given point of time, you want to have at least 3 choices. A choice of 1 is no choice at all. And a choice of 2 is no choice at all. But by the time you have 3, we as human beings have an innate ability to start measuring which of these 3 is better. And we're going to suck at doing that early on, but as an investor also you have to learn. But you've got to have a minimum of 3 choices at one time. And that's actually not that easy. It's not easy to get 3 choices from qualified people because their stuff also gets sold out very quickly. And that's where virtual assistants come in, because what you need to do is to build a funnel that is big enough. That's why I said 100 people, so that at any given point of time you have 3 or 4 or 5. And then you can also hire virtual assistants, and this is very easy to do. Again, Upwork.com is one of the world's most amazing websites for this, where you're like, I can hire an analyst. You might say, I don't feel confident enough in analyzing multifamily. Do you know that there's a bunch of multifamily underwriters that you can pay $35 an hour for? You're about to invest $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000, but you don't want to invest $350 in actually having this person look through these 3 properties? Because they do this for a living, right? So a multifamily underwriter underwrites at least 100 properties a year, right? 2 a week is pretty common. So they do this 100 times a year. And so there'll be 100 questions that are going to be obvious to these virtual assistants that are not obvious to you, right? I have 1 Bangladeshi, 1 Indian, Niraj Yusuf, and one that's in the US is an Indian, lives in Florida. They're underwriters. And these people, I can tell you this, with my 20 years of experience, they typically will catch 5 to 10 times what I'm catching. Simply because they're doing it for a living.
Exactly. Yep.
Right? I don't have a chance. I don't have a hope of ever matching them unless I do it for a living, which I'm not interested in, and neither is the technologist. So now what you're doing is you're finding experts on the web and paying them a few $100s so you make good decisions. I can tell you those few $100s, a lot of people don't do it. It's like, whoa, oh my God, this guy's going to charge me $500 to analyze these properties. Well, it's the best money you're ever going to pay because a lot of these properties could be awful, and they'll tell you why. And by the time you do it 3 to 4 times, you will learn how to start doing the analysis yourself.
Yes. So I want to stop you right there because you're already answering the next question I was going to ask already, because one of the beliefs, breaking the beliefs there is, introducing the idea of virtual assistants to $7-8 an hour for a tech professional, the $200K a year, et cetera, right? Because that frees up the amount of hours where you can think, right? But here's the thing, Neal, it's like you addressed it at the very end there with the underwriters, right? Of this is what they do full time or then some, and they've got that expertise. We're really good at writing code and really good operational excellence and reliability and all the things, but it's like, oh, well, Neal, like, are these virtual assistants I'm going to be getting, if they're $7 an hour, can they really do anything for me? And did you stumble over those things when you first started as well? Or in your tech job, did you already have some kind of assistants who were used to working with one?
I couldn't find for $7 an hour people that could underwrite complex things for me. They could underwrite single family purchases. So if I was trying to do a single family loan, and the way I did it is on the single family side, if you're making, let's say, 2 offers a week, 3 offers a week for single family rentals, I highly recommend that you use websites. At the moment, the names escape me, but there's Property Radar and a bunch of other sites that basically make all of the offers on your behalf and do a bunch of the underwriting stuff through data that they pull. And then somebody can take that and a $7 virtual assistant can massage that, right? Now, when you look at a $30 million property and in multifamily, you're not going to be able to do that through a website like Property Radar. There are websites that actually do it, but they're, thousands of dollars a year. So in that case, you're looking for multifamily underwriters or whatever the area you're in / underwriters, industrial underwriter, multifamily underwriter. Those usually will cost you $25 to $30 an hour. They won't cost you $7.
But you started with getting the lower cost ones, like I was saying, so that you can have them start doing your email, your calendar, your admin, and all kind of stuff. And then as you, like you're saying, got more specific, of course, the specialized knowledge got more expensive too. So
absolutely. And you'd be amazed at how specialized you can get, right? So Maddie is my designer. It's not my PowerPoint designer. She's a designer. And so here's what I do so I have one employee at my company. His name's Daniel. Daniel loves doing research. So what he does is every morning he'll post the top 2 or 3 articles that he likes into a Slack channel. I read them and I pick one of them that really catches my fancy, right? And then in the same Slack channel, I click on the plus button, record an audio. And this audio is me just basically stream of consciousness talking about what I find interesting in this article.
Yep.
Right? And then I throw a link into ChatGPT into a string where I've already given ChatGPT lots and lots of instructions, and ChatGPT knows those instructions. So when I plug in the link, I don't say anything. I just plug in the link and hit enter. It gives me a summary of those articles with all of the nice words that I can use, and I copy paste that into the Slack channel. And that's all I do. That's all I've done. I've selected an article, spent roughly a minute talking about it, and then use ChatGPT to come up with a summary. And sometimes I edit the summary because I don't particularly like it, and I paste it into that channel. This is about 6 minutes of work on average, maybe 7 minutes of work every day. And out of that comes an exquisite graphic, which is designed in a tool called Canva, which has incredible templates. And so Maddie will design this in Canva, and she creates what is known as a carousel, which is 6 to 7 images that cover the article. And this carousel goes onto all of our channels, and the Canva software cuts and trims it for every channel, for TikTok separately, Instagram, all of these. And she takes the final product and she uploads it into a software called Hootsuite. And this Hootsuite software, a few minutes later, on schedule, pushes this stuff out to my audience, and this audience basically now I'm getting tens of thousands of views. Now, so Maddie's at $7.50 an hour. I'm spending 6 minutes a day. Daniel's reading some articles and suggesting stuff. But the content, the amount of work and the quality of the work that is being done is absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. But the beauty of it is it's never more than 6 minutes of work. So
leverage,
that's really leverage. I mean, having leverage in life is absolutely incredible. And hopefully, what I can do is, I know that in a podcast you usually don't want to do this, but if I can click the screen button, I can show you one, and I think you'll immediately see just how powerful this is. So this is the end result for Maddie. For an article. This is what she produces. And all of this is going to all over the web, right? But what I'm doing is spending the 6 minutes.
Yes,
That's it.
absolutely. So I want to I appreciate you sharing that too, by the way. So the belief here that I really wanted to break, and the reason why I wanted to address this, I know you can talk about this at length, is just creating the freedom of time, right? The freedom of time and getting used to doing that. So I'm going to check out, one of that webinar too. I saw it, but everyone else should be checking that out too, and creating that time freedom to think about what to do next. But on the first part of what you were talking about, when you're giving this journey and outline, is to go take 25K as an example, 50, whatever that's right for you, and go invest. Is your recommendation to what is the threshold of knowledge? Is it that 30-day mark? I might have missed it, to at the hour a day, to get smart before investing the first 25,000, so that you can get even smarter off of that?
I'd say the first 30 days are just pure research. You're just
Okay.
learning about different things. You're curious, you're clicking on articles, you're, doing that sort of thing. And then after that, when you are done with 30 days, you're saying, okay, Neal said, after 30 days, focus on doing rather than researching. So
Yep.
that 30 days was just my way of saying, stop fucking around. Let's get serious,
Yep.
right? And actually start working. Work is a focused activity. And that focused activity can be then either working with your virtual assistant or by yourself, finding those 100 people and then becoming part of their ecosystem, so that you can learn from their emails, their posts, and everything else, right? Everything, all the content that they're putting out, you need to learn from. And at the 30-day point, you should be absorbing that content, whether you want to be a general partner or just make an investment as a limited partner, right? That's why that 30 days thing was, because I have people who are like reading articles for years and doing nothing. And I'm really opposed to that.
Absolutely. So perfect. So that's a guideline there. Multifamily, absolutely. From the perspective of anything that you can do at scale, I don't even want to talk about single family, just because I got rid of it. And if we want to be leveraging our time more, we're talking about that, and how can you do it more from an LP perspective. So everyone listening absolutely understands that too. I think, being conscious of your time here, man, I had so many questions. I was going to ask about specific skills and things like that you might have carried over to the tech side. But at this point, maybe 30 seconds or 60 seconds commentary on top of that, because you talked about computer science, data science, the origin story about scraping websites and just, putting it into things and getting your insights and outputs. I love that, the cities and seeing what pops out. I think, let's spend the next maybe 3 or 4 minutes here before you run, is so the first stage, the month of learning, learn the skill of delegation. Go and check out your stuff on virtual assistants, build a plan on how you want to invest. I mean, how does someone drop some knowledge on us about how you continue to use ChatGPT to think about how a tech professional can build their portfolio, how else they should invest, and what else they can continue to keep on doing, since we only got so far in this interview?
I find ChatGPT to be incredible. I use it about 15 to 20 times a day. I use it for all sorts of things, personal, curiosity related things. I'm very curious about the electric car revolution in China, so I ask questions about that to ChatGPT all the time. So first is, you should be obsessively curious, regardless of what you're doing in life. Be curious about everything around you, and understand that ChatGPT, even in its current format, 4.0, is an incredible tool. Like it's something that knows a lot about everything in the world. So the fact that you're not asking questions 5 or 10 times a day means that you've lost your childlike curiosity. So the first thing is, think about all the things that you were really interested in. Maybe it's gaming, maybe it's Marvel movies, maybe it's it's something else, maybe it's penthouse models. I don't care. It's something that you're interested in. Start asking questions about it. You have to rebuild your ability to ask questions and then ask a follow-up question, because I want you to go back to being a child. Because I think that's the opportunity you have today. You have this oracle called ChatGPT. It's sitting there and it's available to you 24 hours a day, answers every question without ever being pissed off at you, and you're not using it, right? So, I'm really obsessed with using it. Now, when using it, here's what I suggest. Anything that you want to do that we've talked about today over the last 45 minutes, anything, any step, right? Maybe you've written down 10 steps as I've been talking. Every one of those steps, I want you to plug it into ChatGPT and say, how do I do this best? You are a process expert, right? You are an organizational expert. I am a newbie. Give me all of the different steps. Make it simple for me. Use charts, graphs, and specific examples to tell me how to do this best. Make sure that you're researching the web and giving me web links for any place that I need to go. By saying this and applying everything that you do, I find that it always does a better job than me, right? Because there are certain ideas that it doesn't have that I have, but the number of ideas that it has that I don't have is always in excess of that, yep. Right? So I've just gotten used to simply not starting on something without the help of ChatGPT, right? My goal is all day long to continuously be doing things using ChatGPT. And I've just gotten very good at that. And what I do is that once I find a certain template that works, I tell ChatGPT, and by the way, I call those strings, you can always change a string name in ChatGPT. So I changed the string name to start with the word anchor because ChatGPT doesn't have pinning capability yet. You can't pin it to the top, right? So it's going to go down. So I add the word anchor there so I can go find it very quickly later on. And I tell ChatGPT that I spend a lot of time giving you instructions in this particular string. Anything that I add in this string from now on, assume those instructions when you're answering my question. Now this becomes a template.
Yep.
Now I can throw other stuff in it, and I don't have to tell it to do anything. I can throw in links, I can throw in documents, and it already knows. But you have to tell it that once, because otherwise it's not that smart.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
that's how to use ChatGPT in a potent fashion.
Yeah, and that just unlocks exponential knowledge. So, man, I know you got to go. I'll get all the links, all the things, all the trailers, all the places. I'd love to have you on in the future, but appreciate you being here, Neal. Pleasure to have you. And I'm going to get into all of your other stuff. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, the best way to connect with me is by typing my first name and last name in. Luckily, I'm the only Neal Bawa on the World Wide Web. Or if you want to look at our content, we have about 20,000 people that look at our webinars on Airbnb and single family and multifamily and all other kinds of asset classes in real estate. I also do webinars on AI. And those are stored at Multifamily University. So you can just type in Multifamily University and check them out. One of the most popular ones is the 10x Your Business with Virtual Assistant. So I suggest you check that out as well.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Path to Passive. We love connecting with our listeners and those on the path to architecting their wealth and improving their lives. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see in future episodes. Get in touch with us through email or Instagram. See you next week for a new episode.